Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the Black Enterprise Wealth Building and Real Estate Summit. Our breakout session today is talking about building wealth through short-term rentals. I'm your host, your moderator for today, Curtis R. Monday. I'm the CEO of Monday Investment Group and also CRM Rental Properties, and also the author of the book, The Game, How to Become a Successful Real Estate Investor. Helping us with this topic today, I'm joined by two exciting panelists. First, we have Bandele. Kayi is the CEO of Bandele Properties. Also have Java Birch. She's a licensed realtor with Keller Williams, and jointly together, they have partnered to form a company called the Wiser Capital Partners. They do a myriad of things in the real estate investment realm, but they have a special emphasis on the short-term luxury rental market. And so I'm pleased to be joined by these ladies today. So good afternoon, ladies. How you doing?
Hi, Curtis. Great. Glad to be here.
Thanks for having us on, Curtis.
All right. Let's jump right into it. You know, real estate has continued to be a mainstay in terms of building wealth. 90% of the millionaires in the world have some form of real estate in their actual portfolio. And real estate investing has been a key component to allowing people to build wealth via real estate. It helps you reach your retirement goals, gives you great tax savings, and through appreciation, helps your net worth grow exponentially. Now, ladies, the tried and true method, the method through real estate investing has always worked, has been traditional rental properties, the traditional buy and hold method to generate passive income and to allow that passive income to help you build wealth through real estate. Now, even in my courses, I teach people that if you can make your passive income be 4 times the amount of your expenses, you created some form of financial freedom. But we've seen this emergence, this explosion of the short-term rental market. Happened in 2008 with a company named Airbnb when they used technology to create this industry disruptor, allowing property owners to be able to list their properties for short-term rentals. And now, as we talk in 2022, the industry is kind of going. I want to hear from you. Let's start with you, Kayi. I want you to tell me, what was your aha moment? When was the aha moment when you found or thought that short-term rentals was a way to pivot in your investment endeavors?
Right. Well, you made some really great points, Curtis. The fact of the matter is the rental market as we know it has forever been changed. I am a long-term landlord, and most certainly I still have some long-term rentals, which I intend to keep. But the real game changer for me has been short-term rentals. I know that when a lot of people think about stability in the real estate market, that's the first thing they go to is a long-term rental. And I feel like that's for good reason. So, you know, I feel like the main thing that comes to mind when I hear long-term rentals is stability, because it's more or less an annuity. It's dependable money that you can count on over and over again, right? And so for me, that's always going to be a great thing to keep in a portfolio. Right. But short-term rentals are a whole different ballgame in terms of the amount of money that you can realize, the types of doors that it can open, the revenue that it can bring into the community. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that a little bit later. But the game changer for me was our very first Airbnb. And we use the term Airbnb interchangeably to mean short-term rental because we host on a myriad of different platforms. Airbnb is the one that most people know. And I've been doing residential redevelopment for almost 20 years now. And so the fix and flip thing, like I had that down pat. It wasn't until I started working with Java, and initially it was in a mentorship capacity. She wanted to learn more about the industry. And she worked with me on a project that, you know, I had in my mind that I was going to sell. It was in a great location. I knew I could make my money straight away. And, you know, she mentioned to me, she said, Kai, you know, whenever you sell a house in this neighborhood, I've been following you for a while, it's almost like you always get seller's remorse, you know. Okay. Why not, you know, think about maybe, you know, holding on to this one and, you know, as opposed to doing, you know, a long-term rental, which will take you forever to see your profit, maybe we should, you know, try to do the short-term rental thing, which I was a little nervous about initially because it was uncharted territory. It was, you know, something that I'd never done before. But we'll get into it a little later on in the session, but it exceeded my wildest expectations insofar as the revenue that we've been able to earn from that very first property. We're clearing probably close to 4 times what we would with a traditional long-term rental on that one property.
Got it. Jay, but what about you? What was your aha moment? Or was that it? It was kind of associated with the fact that your partner gets seller's remorse every time she creates this beautiful creation in real estate development. But did you have a different aha moment when you said, hey, you know what, this makes sense?
Yeah, well, for me, it was more so we partnered together. She was looking for a mentee. I was looking for a mentor. And over the course of a couple of years, we had an opportunity to have a joint venture on a condo that was completely gutted. We beat out 20 other people to even get that property. You know, shout out to Kai for making that happen. And so once we actually got the property, we decided to figure out our exit strategy before we even purchased it.
Right.
So the number one exit strategy at that point was let's flip it. But then the way I was looking at it is I wanted to mimic the residual income that she was already receiving.
Right.
And I wanted to do it in a slightly different way because I knew the potential that Airbnb or short-term rentals actually could offer. So once we decided to give it a try, unbeknownst to me, there was a year-long trial period on there that I wasn't aware of, but we tried it and then it far exceeded our expectations. And then once we realized how great it was, we decided to duplicate our efforts and not only get to scale, but to actually teach other people how to do it as well.
Okay. Now, so walk our viewers through the process, because you're talking to a guy that is a solid old school long-term rental guy. So I know my methodology that I use to prospect, find a project, and say, aha, this one can cash flow. Walk me through from a very high level what that process looks like when you're looking for the next project for a potential short-term rental. And go.
Well, you know, I think there's a golden rule in real estate that I'm sure you're familiar with, Curtis, and that is, you know, location, okay. Right? So, you know, and I could tell you all the great, wonderful things that we're experiencing with Airbnb, but as a long-term investor, I know from the minute I set my sights on a property, what my exit strategy is, right? And so that's going to be based on where that property is and what the best use of that space is. There are going to be some properties that you acquire that just aren't right for Airbnb.
Right.
And then there are some properties that you're going to acquire that will be perfect for Airbnb, maybe in the short term, maybe in the long term, maybe the rules that govern Airbnb in your area change. So you do have to kind of come into it with the mentality that you may have to pivot, but the exit strategy should always predetermine you making any type of purchase in the real estate game, if that makes sense to you.
It makes perfect sense. So Jay, but when you guys are looking at a potential property for a short-term rental, are there just some aha, like, okay, like it has to have this particular thing in the area? Like, for example, location and proximity to like tourism. Are there certain things that when you're looking at a short-term rental opportunity that you look for that kind of says, okay, we may be heading in the right direction, this has some viability?
Absolutely. So typically the way that we're looking at it is going to be based on the end user or the end guest that you want to service. Depends on what kind of market you're in. So if you're in an urban environment, those items are going to be different than if you're in an environment where like it's a log cabin and it's secluded. So if you have someone that is looking to do tourist things, first of all, you want to be in a location that is not limiting the demographic that you can potentially market to. So you want to have not only tourist traffic.
Okay. You know, because as a long-term rental, as a long-term real estate investor with a long-term strategy, things like, you know, having my properties near a university or the freeway or things of that nature, or transportation are always like, okay, that's a good one for me. And I was always curious about that. Talk to us about
exactly those things. Yeah, it's all of those things. And also what I'm leading to is you want to not have only one type of clientele that you're marketing to.
There you go.
So you want to draw not only the tourism traffic, but you also want to draw in the local people that may want to have a staycation or a baby shower or things that they want to gather together, but they're not able to do so, especially with COVID. COVID has seen our business triple and quadruple because people still want to share intimate experiences together, but they don't want to do it at home.
Sure.
So, so all those things that you said, like for instance, you want to have walkability. Can someone walk outside at night and not have to worry about crime or being accosted? Can they get to the beach easily if there's a beach that's nearby? Can they go to different amenities easily? Are they a couple minutes away from downtown, or are they going to have to drive 45 or 50 minutes to get there? So it just really depends on what type of tourists you're trying to attract. And then you want to have the amenities that they would be looking for that's easy for them to get to. Grocery store, liquor store, things like that. And on the flip side, you have people that have been cooped up inside their house. They haven't been able to connect with nature. Then they want to go to a log cabin. So what type of amenities do you need to have? Do you need to have sewage on site? Do you need to have something that's completely off the grid that no one even knows is there? Do you need Wi-Fi? Those are all things that you have to consider when you have an Airbnb. And then on the side of that as well, are you able to service that space in order to do the turnovers? So if you're in a super remote location, who's going to drive, an hour away to make sure that you can actually have laundry and cleaning services? Yeah. If you don't have anyone to support those services that you're giving to your clients or to your guests, then it's not going to be an ideal Airbnb or short-term rental location.
Got you. Talk to me about what kind of properties you ladies look for. Are you looking for distressed properties, or are you looking for something that are more turnkey operations?
We're looking for something that's going to offer the most value. Like James said, it's extremely important for us to be in neighborhoods that are walkable. Sure. And, to kind of piggyback off of what Jada said, the issue in a lot of our communities that are well-positioned, that are close to downtown, there's still a shortage of lodging options. When you think about the neighborhoods, especially where we are on the south side of Chicago, if a family of four does want to have a nice staycation on the south side of Chicago, their options are slim and none. Airbnb is changing that. Yeah. And we are really happy to be a part of that change, because what a lot of people don't think about is that in addition to people coming to the neighborhood, or people who are in the neighborhood, staying in the neighborhood and coming to lodge with us, it's also helping to circulate the dollar within the community, because we can then refer them to a nearby boutique or a nearby coffee shop, and we're able to kind of recycle some of those dollars in a way that at one time was just relegated for, the hotel industry, people who were staying downtown on Michigan Mile. They're now coming to the south side of Chicago. So it also helps to sustain our community. So it's, every chance that we get, we talk about how the demand far exceeds the supply for short-term rentals in our neighborhoods. And that's one of the reasons that we're flourishing and that we're looking to bring more people in to benefit from this.
So kind of a property acquisition rehab question. What types of things are you taking into consideration? Like, for example, in the long-term rental market, like for me personally, I look for things like 3 bedrooms, right? If I know I can work, I'm really comfortable with the profit margins with that. Do you find with short-term rentals that they're the size of the property tends to lead to more of a profitability, like 1 bedrooms versus 3 or 4? Like what are you seeing in that?
So absolutely. So really the same things that you're looking for when you're doing a long-term rental, you're looking for those same amenities for your short-term rentals, because you never know at what point your short-term rental could turn into a long-term rental.
Maybe forced to be a long-term.
Right. So really you're looking for how many beds can you sleep, or how many heads you can sleep as comfortably as possible. So the ideal format is 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. You can do around, roughly on the low end, about 8 heads. And then it's easier for people to pay higher price points for luxury if it's more people splitting the bill.
Got it. Makes sense. When you have a project and you're doing your rehab, what types of things are you guys considering in respect to the amenities in the home that you probably wouldn't do with the long-term rental, but you're definitely going to do with a short-term rental?
Right. So again, that's going to be based upon who it is you're trying to target. There's some people who may go into Airbnb and their main reason is they want to get as many heads in a place as possible. They don't care so much about comfort. They may have bunk beds in every room and, just trying to get a per head count per person. We're more in the luxury market. So we're more into the experience and creating an experiential feeling for our customers. So we're going to have things like your Keurig machine, your blow dryer, your shampoo and conditioner, things to make them feel like they're in a home away from a home. And so the price point for maintaining an Airbnb that's, higher end is more costly. But again, our price point is also higher, and therefore our profitability is higher as well.
So the thought behind what types of amenities you put in are directly attributed or influenced by your demographic market you're trying to attract for the
bingo. So that's exactly right.
Compare and contrast for us, and both of you can piggyback on this. Compare and contrast long-term rentals, buy and hold versus short-term rentals. Compare and contrast the two. And let's start with you, Jay.
Okay, I'll go with the short-term rental route. So essentially, there's a couple of things that make short-term rentals stand out. So the pros would be definitely there's no real cap on the amount that you can of income you can generate with a short-term rental, because you're not limited to just a certain amount every month. You have the option to add experiences or add different events when your space is vacant, to create more. You can figure out ways to market your space and bring more income into it. Another thing that's a short-term pro would be the fact that you're bringing revenue into, or at least in our predicament, we're bringing revenue into Bronzeville community in Chicago. Instead of, those tourism dollars going to downtown or going right out by the airport, is getting recycled back into our communities. There's also a lot of, Black entrepreneurs in the area that we partner with, that they're able to help bring a Chicago experience, and they're also compensated in return for that.
Sure.
And then lastly, one of the most important things for short-term rentals, you have your money up front. So before someone even steps a toe into your property, you already have the cash in your account. You have it in hand. Or if you're working with another platform, they've already collected the income for you. And if you have any issues, they have mitigation processes in order to make sure that you are protected, versus having someone come in and then messing your place up, and then you're caught holding the bag. So those are those are three of the different pros that you can have for a short-term rental. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to piggyback. That's pretty big. So I like the fact that you have the flexibility to adjust the rent or adjust the fee per night based upon what may be going on in the area, if it's the 4th of July holiday or something, or the Christmas holiday, et cetera, versus a long-term rental when you're locked in into that lease agreement. You have to kind of give, some kind of heads up. Kai, you and I had a chance to discuss this once. What about the screening process? The screening process with those that, compare and what does that look like in comparison to long-term rentals?
The screening process for short-term rentals is much different. It is definitely more, what's the best way to describe it? More involved. It's more of a process. And you might think that it will be the other way around, because you're definitely want to screen heavily for someone who's going to be staying with you for a long time. But this is a place that you have invested time, energy, money, design. I mean, you name it. We put so much into this property. Sure. And to think about potentially risking someone coming in for 2 nights and, wreaking havoc on our place. So we are very, very diligent about screening people who want to come and stay at the Airbnb. We do have some criteria, and I'll share a couple of key points with you guys. First and foremost, with us, it's you have to have Airbnb credit, so we don't want to be anybody's guinea pig. I know that might sound a little elitist, but if you come and stay at a place that we've sacrificed so much time, so much energy, so much money into, we want to see where you stayed previously and what they had to say about you. And that, pretty much determines whether or not we think you'll be a viable candidate for us. And that's not to say that all brand new people to the Airbnb platform, are super highly risky. But by that same token, people are screening us the same way. So it's the same way if you're renting with Airbnb, you're going to look for that super host status, because you want to make sure that you're spending your well-earned money, that it's going to be an experience that's conducive to that's worth it, that's worthwhile. So it's a two-way street. We're screening them, they're screening us. We're very clear about wanting to know upfront, what are your intentions, especially if you are a local renter. Because as Jaba mentioned, you know, listen, we get cabin fever too. We live in Chicago. We may want to have a little, you know, staycation within the city. But, you know, we got to ask the tough questions. How many people are going to be at the party? Who are you, you know, is it going to be a party, first of all? Because we don't disallow parties. And I think that's a big misconception that, you know, the Airbnb hosts are so strict. We don't mind people letting their hair down and having a good time.
Sure.
But you've got to be respectful of my place. You've got to be respectful of my neighbors. Yeah. And, you know, I have to feel to a degree that I can believe that who you present is actually who you are. So, you know, there are Google searches. People tell all about themselves on all the social media platforms. So we don't really have to do too much digging.
You guys look at that stuff. You go and like.
Absolutely and positively. Yeah, we do.
So, so the Airbnb experience is kind of akin on the long-term rental side to like a credit report.
You got it.
I'm laughing because I think one of the biggest pros is that if you get a quote unquote bad guest, you only stuck with them 4, 5, maybe 7 days. I'm stuck with them for an
eternity. And the rules and laws that govern long-term rentals, we can talk about that too. They favor the tenant. So you'll have a much, much more difficult time getting a deadbeat tenant out of a long-term rental than you will a short-term rental. No doubt about it.
Let's talk financing, because a lot of these deals, you know, most real estate investors are using some form of leverage to do the deal, whether it's a private money investor or an entity that focuses or specializes on rehab lending. Is the lending different with short-term rentals versus what we see on the fix and flip side, the buy and hold side?
So it's going to really depend on what your strategy is for purchase.
Okay.
So I know that there's a lot of issues with zoning that's popping up. That's due to the fact that there is a housing crisis for not only homeowners, but for renters as well. So due to the fact that there's less supply, it's causing cities to try to curtail the amount of available housing that's available for renters.
Long-term renters.
For long-term renters and for homeowners. And one way for them to do that is to limit the amount of new registrations that they accept for, you know, Airbnb. And you've seen it in California, and you've seen it in Illinois. I hear that there's some changes in New Orleans as well. It's really a municipality by municipality type of a deal. So having that within the framework, once you know, like for instance, here in Chicago, if you are purchasing a unit that's 4 units and lower, then you have to be owner occupant in order to be able to receive the registration for Airbnb. So that limits your ability to scale, because you can only be owner occupant on one property.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then your financing would shift more to either conventional, or you could even do a traditional FHA loan, which is great because you have 30 years to realize appreciation in your property.
Right.
On the other hand, if you are going to do multiple units, then if you're in a building that has 5 units or more, then they don't have that same restriction on there. So at that point, you're going to be looking at condos. And so if you're looking at condos, typically condos don't qualify for FHA. I know you have the FHA spot approval every once in a while, but for the most part, you're looking at conventional, which means you have to bring more money to the table.
Or partner with someone.
Partner, cash, or you could just do it as an investment loan. So that's how financing varies based off of the zoning laws in whatever, you know, municipality that you're going to be purchasing your home in.
Jay, but that's a great segue, because my next question was going to be about the impact that zoning laws and municipalities and neighborhoods have in your short-term rental and investment strategy. What advice would you give someone in respect to how to keep their pulse on that, to figure out what the rules are? Like, what do they start? What do they begin?
Well, the biggest thing is to be involved in your wherever your business is. You need to know what's happening before it happens. So sitting on any boards, going to neighborhood meetings. For instance, one of our Airbnbs is in a condo. We're on a condo board. we're able to steer the ship, so to say, and know what's coming down the line. And if we know what's coming down the line, then we can put ourselves in a position to make the best out of what we're doing. So it's really being active in community and knowing what's happening. And then once you figure out what's coming down the pipeline, then you strategize to try to frame the situation in the best possible way for yourself. Because when we started, these regulations did not exist when we started. And there was no way for us to anticipate anything else happening. So if you are, you're at the whim of whatever government decides to do. If you know what's coming down the line, though, then you can try to put yourself in a position to make the best out of it. I'm not sure, Kai, do you have anything?
Yeah, well, I think that this huge pivot, the reason why it's suddenly become an issue is because, listen, the demand is there. Short-term rentals are so lucrative that it is making a lot of long-term landlords reconsider. Think about, the statement that that's sending. So I think that it's important for us to continue to have dialogues like this, to let people know that it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. Like if people who are just getting into Airbnb for the profitability of it and have no idea about what it takes to run one and to manage one, you're going to be in for a hard time. And we really like educating people, because when we send the right message and we show how to properly manage, then we can avoid a lot of these things from happening just through education.
Yes.
So
yeah, no, we get into like the last few minutes of the session. I mean, we can talk about this stuff for all day, but I really want both of you to give our viewers at least 2 or 3 takeaways. 2 or 3 takeaways they can take with them as they look at short-term rentals as a viable real estate investment strategy. And let's go with you first, Java, and then Kai.
Okay. I think the biggest takeaway is that always purchase with an exit strategy in mind. I think that's really the biggest thing. You want to have a property that, even if you anticipate certain things happening, if you have to offload it quickly, or if you have to change your strategy, you're not stuck and you have options. So I think that's the biggest takeaway right there, having options.
I would strongly advise, if you're considering getting into the Airbnb market, like get with somebody who's already doing it, not only doing it, but doing it well. Like learn from someone the ins and outs, learn how to avoid risk through properly screening people. Don't be afraid to invest in an area that you might not see a lot of Airbnbs, because contrary to popular belief, a lot of times it's not that there's not a demand there, it's just that no one wants to bite the bullet and be the first one to do it. When we first started doing this in Bronzeville, the average per night price point was $100 a night. And with the amount of, as Java mentioned, we did a gut rehab on our unit. So with the amount of money that we did, $100 a night wasn't really appealing to me. Right. So we are at the top of the market there in an area that before we came, it didn't exist. You didn't really have that luxury rental space. So what that did for us is it put us in a position where we didn't really have competition. So, like Java said, insofar as having an exit strategy, it's always great to look at the property as the commodity. Like think about the plethora of things that you can do with one place. Yeah. And, don't be like the old Kai, like don't be intimidated. Just because you've been doing fix and flips all your life doesn't mean that Airbnb can't be a game changer for you. So if you're considering it, I say partner with someone and go for it.
So the other thing that I would say, I know this has been an Airbnb heavy conversation, but short-term rentals is not just limited to Airbnb.
Yes.
So you can look at corporate rentals where you may rent to traveling nurses or people that have short-term needs where it's not a full year lease, maybe it's 7 months, maybe it's 3 months. We also have options for hourly rentals. Yes. So you can partner with people such as Black Enterprise. Yeah. And you can actually rent out your space to be used for moderation panels. Yes. Also for commercials,
photo shoots, music videos.
Yes.
Small off-site meetings. I mean, really the gamut of things that we hadn't thought of. Production spaces. We've had movie houses to reach out, television shows. Especially when a space is very well curated, you're gonna attract a certain type of clientele. So again, don't think it's limited to just Airbnb, because it's not.
Yes,
But
yes.
shout out to Airbnb. Look, we're not only Airbnb super hosts, but also ambassadors. So we ride with Airbnb.
Yes.
Absolutely do. But that's just one of the platforms. There's a whole world out here.
Yes. The opportunities in short-term rentals are endless. We encourage you guys to always do your due diligence when it comes to real estate investing, especially in the short-term rental market. I want to say thank you again to both of our panelists. We sincerely appreciate you. Keep up the phenomenal work, and thank you guys. So enjoy the.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you for joining us for our second Black Enterprise Wealth Building and Real Estate Virtual Summit. We hope you're walking away with new information, new resources and tools, and fresh motivation to take advantage of opportunities to create multi-generational wealth for you and your family. Remember, for the next 30 days, you can log back in to watch any session on demand. And don't forget to share on social media using the hashtag BEWealth. Thank you to all of our speakers for sharing your expertise. And an extra special thanks to our sponsor, Rocket Mortgage, for joining us to present this important event. Be sure to join us in Las Vegas next month, March 24th through 26th, for the return of our Women of Power Summit as a live in-person event hosted by ADP. And in Philadelphia, May 18th through the 20th, for the return of the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit, hosted by Nationwide as an in-person event. For the latest information on all of our upcoming events, both in person and virtual, go to blackenterprise.com/BE-events. The message today was loud and clear. Pathways to wealth, both established and new, are accessible to you. Take control of your finances and seek out and explore new opportunities. Now is the time to put what we've learned into action. Let's each of us do our part to close America's racial wealth gap.